The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched across 3 miles of polished crystal floors and gleaming metal walls. Representatives from 200 different worlds sat in floating chairs that adjusted to each species' unique body shape. At the center podium stood Ambassador Zephyr of the Velkari Empire, his crimson scales catching the light from the artificial suns that lit the chamber. Zephyr raised his forearms high above his head and spoke in a common galactic tone. His voice carried the confidence of a warrior race that had never known defeat. Fellow beings of the galaxy, today I bring news of great expansion. The Velkari Empire has discovered a new world ripe for conquest. The third planet of the Sol system shall become our newest territory within 1 rotation of their sun. A murmur ran through the assembled representatives. Elder Kithara of the Minoan Federation rose from her seat. Her ancient voice carried across the chamber with the weight of centuries. Ambassador Zephyr, the world you speak of is inhabited. The species calls themselves humans. They are not to be underestimated. Zephyr laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Old One, your research files show a primitive species that has barely left their home world. They fight with chemical explosives and metal projectiles. Their largest vessels cannot even reach the speed of light. What threat could such creatures pose to the might of the Velkari fleet? You have not studied them deeply enough, Kithara warned. This species survived an ice age that covered most of their world. They endured plagues that killed half their population. They fought wars that should have destroyed them completely, yet they emerged stronger each time. They are survivors. Zephyr, survivors are dangerous. Nonsense, Zephyr replied. Our scouts report that their most advanced weapons are crude nuclear devices. Our shields can deflect such primitive attacks with ease. War Commander Thaxon leads a fleet of 1,000 ships to claim this world. The humans will surrender or be destroyed. There is no third option. Far across the galaxy, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Luna Base, staring out at the blue marble that was Earth. At 55 years old, he had spent his entire adult life preparing for this moment. A moment when humanity would no longer be alone in the universe. He had hoped first contact would be peaceful. The reports coming in from the outer sensor arrays suggested otherwise. Sir, we have confirmation, reported Lieutenant Commander Lisa Morrison, his daughter, as she entered the observation deck. 47 unknown vessels just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of our solar system. They are not responding to our standard greeting protocols. Jake turned from the window and looked at his daughter. She had inherited her mother's determination and his tactical mind. At 28, she was the youngest officer ever to command a squadron of Earth's new fighter craft. What does the analysis team say about their technology? Dr. Nathan Price reports their ships show energy signatures consistent with plasma weaponry and deflector shield technology. Their hull composition appears to be some form of reinforced crystalline structure. Estimated crew capacity ranges from 50 to 5,000 per vessel, depending on ship class. Jake nodded grimly. And our current defensive status. All orbital platforms are online and fully charged. The lunar defense grid is operational. Surface installations are reporting ready status across all continents. Captain Beth Sullivan confirms that the UES Guardian and her battle group are prepared for combat operations. A communications officer rushed onto the observation deck carrying a datapad. Admiral, incoming transmission from the unknown fleet. They are broadcasting on multiple frequencies in what appears to be a universal translation matrix. Put it through the main speakers, Jake ordered. The voice that filled the observation deck was harsh and mechanical, clearly being processed through translation software. Primitive inhabitants of the Third World, I am War Commander Thaxon of the Velkari Empire. Your world has been selected for incorporation into our territory. You will surrender all governmental authority and submit to Valkyrie rule. Any resistance will result in the complete elimination of your species. You have one of your planetary rotations to comply. Jake walked to the communications console and activated the transmission array. His voice would now be broadcast, not only to the alien fleet, but to every government on Earth and every human vessel in the solar system. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the United Earth Defense Force. I speak for all of humanity. Your demand for surrender is denied. This is our world, our home, and we will defend it with everything we have. You came here expecting to find easy prey. You will discover instead why humans have never been conquered by anyone or anything. Leave now while you still can. The response came immediately. Laughter. Harsh, grinding laughter that echoed through the communication system. Foolish creatures, Thaxon replied. You speak of defense against forces beyond your comprehension. Our weapons can crack your world in half. Our shields can deflect the power of your sun itself. You have chosen extinction over wisdom. Then come and try to take what is ours, Jake said quietly. But know this, Commander. Humans learn from every fight. We adapt to every threat. We survive what should kill us. And we remember every enemy who has ever tried to harm our families. The transmission ended in static. Jake turned to his daughter and the other officers who had gathered on the observation deck. Lisa, get to your fighter squadron. I want all pilots in their ships within the hour. Commander Hayes, signal all fleet units to take defensive positions. Around Earth and Luna. Dr. Price, activate the Prometheus protocols. Sir, are you certain about Prometheus? Lisa asked. Once we reveal that technology, there is no going back. They came to our home with threats of genocide, Jake replied. They made this choice for us. Signal all units. Operation Guardian begins now. Across the solar system, hidden installations that had masqueraded as research facilities for decades began to reveal their true purpose. Weapons platforms that had been disguised as radio telescopes started tracking the approaching alien fleet. Military bases buried beneath the ice of Antarctica powered up shield generators that would protect Earth's major cities. On the far side of the moon, shipyards that officially did not exist began launching vessels that were not supposed to be possible with human technology. War Commander Thaxon stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Talon, and watched. His tactical displays update with information about the human defenses. What he saw puzzled him. The humans had more defensive installations than his scouts had reported, but they still appeared to be using primitive technology. Kinetic projectile weapons, fusion power sources, and basic particle beam arrays. Nothing that posed a real threat to Valkyrie shields and armor. Begin the attack, he commanded. Target their orbital installations first. Once we control the space around their world, they will have no choice but to surrender. The Valkyrie fleet moved forward like a crimson tide of death, their weapons charging with the promise of easy victory. They had conquered worlds across half the galaxy using the same tactics. Overwhelming firepower delivered with ruthless efficiency. They expected this battle to be no different. They were about to learn that humans had been waiting for this moment far longer than they could possibly imagine. The first Valkyrie plasma bolts struck the outer defense platforms of Luna Base like hammers of fire. War Commander Thaxon watched from his command chair as the brilliant flashes lit up his tactical display. He expected to see debris and destruction. Instead, the human installations absorbed the energy and continued operating as if nothing had happened. Tactical report, Thaxon demanded from his weapons officer. Sir, the human shields are holding. Energy absorption rate is 97%. Our plasma weapons appear to be feeding their defensive systems rather than damaging them. Thaxon's scaled face twisted in confusion. Impossible. No primitive species possesses energy absorption technology. Increase firepower to maximum levels. Lieutenant. Commander Lisa Morrison felt the vibration through the hull of her fighter as she launched from the UES Guardian. Around her, 47 other human pilots accelerated away from their mothership in vessels that looked small and fragile compared to the massive Valkyrie destroyers bearing down on them. The enemy ships were each the size of a city block, bristling, with weapons and armor in crystalline plating that reflected the light of distant stars. Eagle Squadron, this is Eagle Leader, Lisa spoke into her comm system. Remember your training. These ships are big, but they turn like asteroids. Use your speed and agility. Hit them hard and get out fast. Copy that, Eagle Leader, came the voice of Lieutenant Danny Cooper, her wingman. Just like the simulations, except this time they shoot back. Lisa smiled grimly inside her helmet. The simulations had been based on detailed analysis of Valkyrie, tactics gathered from their previous conquests. Humanity had been studying alien warfare for decades, preparing for this exact scenario. All fighters, engage at will. Show them what humans can do. The human fighters dove into the Valkyrie formation like angry wasps attacking giants. Their weapons were supposed to be primitive according to alien standards, but the crystalline armor of the enemy ships began to crack and melt under focused particle beam fire. The Valkyrie had never faced opponents who could move in 3 dimensions with such fluid grace. Captain Ryan Hayes commanded the destroyer UEC Zetian from his position at the center of the bridge. His ship was one of 12 human vessels that had been officially classified as research platforms. The classification was technically accurate, since they had been used to research the most effective ways to destroy alien warships. Helm, bring us around to attack Vector 77, Hayes ordered. Weapons, target the lead Valkyrie cruiser's engine section. Use the new torpedoes. Sir, the Mark 7 torpedoes are still experimental, his weapons officer warned. Then this is their final exam, Hayes replied. Fire all tubes. The torpedoes that launched from the Defiant looked like simple nuclear devices to Valkyrie sensors. They tracked them with casual interest, confident that their shields would deflect such primitive weapons. The warheads struck their target and detonated with the force of small suns, but the explosion was only the beginning. Each torpedo contained a microscopic amount of antimatter, a technology that humanity had developed in absolute secrecy for 30 years. The Valkyrie cruiser simply ceased to exist. One moment it was a proud warship bristling with weapons. The next it was an expanding cloud of superheated gas and twisted metal. On Earth's surface, Colonel Amy Carter coordinated the planetary defense from a command bunker buried 3 miles beneath the Rocky Mountains. Her displays showed the battle raging in orbit, while defensive installations across the planet tracked additional Valkyrie ships moving into attack positions. Ma'am, the aliens are attempting to break through our orbital defenses, reported her aide, Major Scott Turner. They are moving 12 heavy cruisers into bombardment formation. Activate the surface batteries, Amy ordered. All continental defense grids are now weapons-free. Across Earth, what appeared to be radio telescopes and weather monitoring stations suddenly rotated to point skyward. The Arecibo dish in Puerto Rico revealed its true purpose as a massive particle accelerator. The Very Large Array in New Mexico showed itself to be exactly that, but the arrays were designed to focus concentrated energy beams rather than radio signals. In Antarctica, installations that were supposed to be studying ice cores began charging weapons that could punch holes through moon-sized asteroids. War Commander Thaxon stared at his tactical display in growing disbelief. His fleet had just lost 3 more ships to human weapons that should not have been able to penetrate Valkyrie shields. The primitive fighters were outmaneuvering his best pilots. Worst of all, the planet below was revealing defensive capabilities that made no sense, according to his intelligence reports. Sir, "We are detecting massive energy buildup from the planet's surface," his sensor officer reported. "Power signatures suggest weapon systems of incredible magnitude." "Impossible," Thaxton snarled. "Our scouts surveyed this system for months. They reported no significant military installations." "Perhaps the scouts were not as thorough as they believed," suggested his tactical officer quietly. Before Thaxton could respond, the Earth-based weapons fired. Beams of coherent energy reached across hundreds of thousands of miles to strike his ships with surgical precision. Shields that had protected Velkari vessels through 100 battles collapsed under the focused assault. The flagship's sister ship, the Iron Fang, split in half as a particle beam from the Australian defense grid carved through its hull like a blade through paper. Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored the battle from her command center deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain. The facility had officially been closed decades ago, but in reality, it had been expanded into a complex that stretched for miles to the granite bedrock. Banks of computers analyzed every aspect of the alien technology in real time, feeding targeting data to human weapon systems across the solar system. "Tactical analysis complete," she reported to Admiral Morrison through the quantum communication. "Link: Velkari shields operate on rotating frequency harmonics. We can predict their defensive cycles and time our attacks for maximum effectiveness." "Understood, Doctor," Jake replied from Luna Base. "Transmit the frequency data to all units. Let's show them what happens when humans have time to study their enemies." The tide of battle began to shift as human weapons started striking with devastating accuracy. Velkari ships that had seemed invulnerable moments before found their shields, failing at precisely the wrong moments. The aliens had superior individual ship firepower, but they had never faced opponents who could adapt their tactics in real time. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Morrison led her fighter squadron through the wreckage of a Velkari destroyer, using the debris as cover while she targeted the enemy's weapon systems. Her particle beams carved through crystalline armor that was supposed to be impenetrable, sending secondary explosions racing through the alien vessel. "Eagle leader to all squadrons," she transmitted. "The big ships have a blind spot directly above their command sections. Hit them there, and their targeting systems go offline." Captain Ryan Hayes received the transmission and smiled. His daughter had inherited more than just his tactical mind. She had learned to think like her enemy and find their weaknesses. "All ships," you heard Eagle leader. "Concentrate fire on command sections. Let's blind these monsters." The human fleet moved with coordination that surprised even the experienced Velkari commanders. Each ship seemed to know exactly where the others would be, creating overlapping fields of fire that trapped alien vessels in crossfires they could not escape. The humans fought like a pack of wolves, using teamwork and cunning to bring down prey much larger than themselves. War Commander Thaxton realized with growing horror that his invasion was failing. The humans were not the primitive species his scouts had described. They possessed technology that matched or exceeded Velkari capabilities, and they used it with a tactical sophistication that spoke of decades of preparation. "Signal the reserve fleet," he commanded. "We need reinforcements immediately." "Sir, the reserve fleet is 3 days away at maximum acceleration," his communication officer replied. "Then we hold position and continue the attack," Thaxton decided. "We are still the superior force. These humans cannot maintain this level of coordination indefinitely." He was about to discover just how wrong he could be. War Commander Thaxton had committed 800 ships to the assault on Earth's orbital defenses when the trap revealed itself. The space around his fleet suddenly filled with new contacts as dozens of human vessels dropped their cloaking fields and appeared from what had seemed to be empty vacuum. Dr. Nathan Price watched the ambush unfold from his command center on Luna Base. The Prometheus project had been humanity's most closely guarded secret for 40 years. Ever since a damaged alien probe had crashed in the Pacific Ocean, the technology recovered from. That single vessel had revolutionized human understanding of physics, but they had kept their advances hidden until this moment. All Prometheus units. This is Control. Price transmitted on the encrypted command frequency. Execute Operation Thunderbolt. Weapons free on all targets. Captain Beth Sullivan felt the familiar hum of the UES Retribution's cloaking system as it powered down. Her ship had been hiding behind Earth's moon for the past 6 hours, invisible to Valkyrie sensors, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Around her, 23 other human battleships materialized from stealth like predators emerging from tall grass. "Helm, bring us to attack speed," Beth ordered. "Weapons, target the Valkyrie flagship. Load the quantum torpedoes." "Ma'am, quantum." "Torpedoes armed and ready," her weapons officer reported. "Target locked on the Crimson Talon. Fire." The quantum torpedoes that launched from the Retribution were not visible to conventional sensors. They existed in a state of quantum superposition, occupying multiple locations simultaneously until they collapsed into normal space at the moment of impact. The Valkyrie had no defense against weapons that could bypass their shields by striking. From alternate dimensions, the Crimson Talon shuddered as explosions rippled along its hull. Thaxon was thrown from his command chair as his flagship's inertial compensators failed. Warning lights flashed across his bridge, while damage reports flooded in from every section of the ship. "Sir, we have multiple hull breaches on Deck 7. Through 15, his engineering officer reported. "Main power is down to 60%. Shield generators are offline." "How is this possible?" Thaxon demanded. "Our sensors showed no human ships in this area." "Sir, I believe they possess stealth technology far more advanced than our intelligence suggested," his tactical officer replied nervously. These vessels were hiding in plain sight. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Morrison led her fighter squadron. Through the chaos of the expanding battle, the appearance of the human stealth fleet had thrown the Valkyrie formation into complete disorder. Enemy ships collided with each other as they tried to avoid weapons fire from opponents they could not see until it was too late. "Eagle Squadron, concentrate on the damaged cruisers," Lisa transmitted to her pilots. "Hit their engine sections and leave them dead in space." "Copy that, Eagle Leader," Lieutenant Danny Cooper responded. "These aliens are learning what happens when you mess with Earth." The human fighters moved through the alien formation like schools of deadly fish, striking weak points with surgical precision. Their weapons had been upgraded with technology reverse-engineered from the crashed probe, giving them firepower that could cripple ships 10 times their size. Admiral Jake Morrison coordinated the battle from Luna Base, watching as his carefully laid plans unfolded with deadly precision. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, studying alien technology and developing countermeasures for every possible threat. The Valkyrie had walked into a trap that had been 40 years in the making. "Admiral, we are receiving surrender requests from multiple Valkyrie vessels," his communication officer reported. "Denied," Jake replied coldly. "They came here with the intention of committing genocide. They do not deserve mercy until their fleet is completely neutralized." Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored the quantum communication channels from her deep underground facility, the technology that made instant communication across interstellar distances possible was another gift from the crashed alien probe. It had allowed humanity to coordinate their defenses and share intelligence in ways their enemies could not predict or counter. "Admiral Morrison, we are detecting reinforcement signals from the Valkyrie fleet," she reported. "They are calling for additional ships to join the battle." "Understood, Doctor," Jake responded. "Signal Captain Hayes. It's time to close the mousetrap." Captain Ryan Hayes had been waiting with the UES Victory and 15 other human ships at the edge of the solar system, hidden among the asteroid belt and prepared to intercept any Valkyrie reinforcements. His vessels were equipped with the most advanced weapons humanity had developed, including experimental technology that had never been tested in actual combat. "All ships, this is victory," Hayes transmitted to his fleet. "Enemy reinforcements will arrive in this sector within the hour. We are the cork in the bottle. Nothing gets past us to threaten Earth." "Understood, Victory," came the response from Captain Maria Santos aboard the U's Thunder, standing by to deliver some human hospitality to our uninvited guests. The quantum communication system allowed Hayes to coordinate with the main battle group around Earth in real time. He could see the tactical situation as clearly as if he were on Luna Base itself. The human fleet was systematically dismantling the Valkyrie invasion force, but more enemy ships were coming. War Commander Thaxon found himself in the unprecedented position of fighting a losing battle against what he had assumed were primitive opponents. His fleet was being torn apart by weapons that should not exist and tactics that made no sense according to standard galactic warfare principles. "Sir, we need to withdraw," his tactical officer urged. "We have lost over 300 ships. The humans are using technology that exceeds our understanding." "No," Thaxon snarled. "The Valkyrie Empire does not retreat. Signal all ships to form defensive formation around the flagship. We will make them pay for every meter of space." Dr. Nathan Price detected the enemy formation change and immediately transmitted new targeting coordinates to the human fleet. Prometheus Project computers could analyze alien tactical patterns faster than biological minds could process them, allowing human ships to predict enemy movements and position themselves accordingly. "All units, this is Prometheus Control," Price broadcast. "The enemy is clustering around their flagship. Execute pattern Delta 7. Drive them into the gravity well." The human ships began herding the remaining Valkyrie vessels toward Earth, like shepherds driving sheep. The aliens found themselves being pushed closer and closer to the planet's gravity, where their larger ships would be at a severe disadvantage against the more maneuverable human craft. Captain Beth Sullivan brought the Retribution alongside the damaged Crimson Talon and opened a communication channel. Her voice was broadcast throughout the Valkyrie fleet in their own language, translated by systems that had been studying alien communications for decades. "This is Captain Sullivan of the United Earth Defense Force. You came to our world expecting to find helpless victims. Instead, you found humans. We do not surrender. We do not retreat. We do not forgive those who threaten our families. Your invasion ends here." The battle raged for 6 more hours as the human fleet systematically destroyed or disabled every Valkyrie ship in the solar system. By the time the last enemy vessel surrendered, the space around Earth was filled with debris from what had once been a proud invasion fleet. War Commander Thaxon found himself a prisoner aboard the UES Guardian, his flagship captured and his crew in human custody. As he was escorted to the detention facility, he passed by a viewport that showed the blue marble of Earth hanging peacefully in space, apparently untouched by the violence that had raged in the void above. Admiral Jake Morrison stood once again on the observation deck of Luna Base, but now he was not alone. Representatives from the Galactic Council had requested permission to enter human space and witness the aftermath of the failed invasion. Their ships waited at the edge of the solar system, afraid to come closer without explicit permission. "Sir, Elder Kithara is requesting a meeting," Lisa reported to her father. "She says the council needs to understand what happened here." Jake smiled grimly. "Tell her she is welcome to visit Earth, but make it clear that she comes as a guest, not as a superior. The age of humanity hiding in the shadows is over. The galaxy was about to learn that Earth was no longer a helpless backwater world." The Humans had revealed themselves as a force that could not be ignored or conquered. A balance of power among the stars had shifted forever, and there was no going back. Elder Kithara stepped from her shuttle onto the docking platform of Luna Base with a mixture of curiosity and concern. In her 300 years of life, she had never seen a species destroy a Valkyrie invasion fleet so completely. The humans had not just defended themselves, they had crushed their attackers with a efficiency that terrified the galactic community. Admiral Jake Morrison waited to greet her, flanked by his daughter Lisa and Dr. Nathan Price. The human delegation appeared calm and professional, showing none of the excitement or fear that typically accompanied first contact situations. They acted like a species that had been expecting this meeting for a very long time. Elder Kithara, Jake said with a slight bow of respect. Welcome to Luna Base. I am Admiral Morrison, Commander of Earth's Defense Forces. Admiral Morrison, Kithara replied in carefully pronounced English. I must admit, your species has surprised the entire Galactic Council. We came here expecting to mediate a humanitarian crisis. Instead, we find that the humans have achieved something no other species has managed in 2 centuries. And what is that? Dr. Price asked with genuine curiosity. You have made the Valkyrie Empire fear, Kithara answered simply. The human delegation exchanged glances that spoke of shared secrets and long-held plans. Admiral Morrison gestured toward the base's main conference room. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. There are things the Council needs to understand about humanity, and I suspect there are things we need to learn about the galaxy. They walked through the corridors of Luna Base. Kithara noticed details that her initial intelligence reports had missed. The technology was far more advanced than it appeared on the surface. The materials used in construction were composite, alloys that should have been beyond human capability. Most telling of all, the crew members they passed showed no signs of surprise or concern about alien visitors. You have been expecting us, she observed. We have been expecting someone for 53 years, Lisa Morrison replied. Ever since. We recovered debris from a scout ship that crashed in Earth's Pacific Ocean. The conference room overlooked Earth through a massive transparent aluminum window. Kithara found herself staring at the blue and white world that had just humiliated the galaxy's most feared military force. From space, it looked peaceful and innocent. The reality was clearly far different. Dr. Nathan Price activated a holographic display that showed the recovered alien technology. We found pieces of a hegemony scout vessel in 1972. The ship had been damaged, probably by an asteroid impact, and crashed into our deepest ocean trench. It took us 15 years just to reach the wreckage. The hegemony reported that scout ship has lost to navigation error, Kithara said slowly. They never mentioned that it had been discovered. They never knew, Admiral Morrison replied. We kept the recovery completely secret while our best scientists studied every fragment. It took decades, but we eventually learned to reverse engineer most of the major systems. The holographic display shifted to show technical diagrams of human ships. What Kithara saw made her breath catch. The humans had not just copied alien technology, they had improved it. Their weapons were more efficient, their shields more adaptive, and their engines more powerful than anything currently used by the major galactic powers. Impossible, she whispered. You achieved in 50 years what most species require centuries to develop. Humans are very good at learning from their enemies, Dr. Price explained. We studied not just the technology, but also the tactical databases we recovered from the scout ship's computer core. We know about Valkyrie conquest patterns, hegemony slave raids, and council non-interference policies. Elder Kithara felt a chill run through her ancient body. You know about the council's policies. We know everything, Lisa Morrison said quietly. We know that the council allows aggressive species to expand unchecked as long as they do not threaten established member worlds. We know that younger civilizations are considered expendable if their conquest serves the greater galactic balance. We know that humanity was marked as an acceptable loss if it meant keeping the Valkyrie occupied and away from more important targets. The accusations hung in the air like toxic gas. Kithara could not deny them because they were completely accurate. The Council had indeed viewed Earth as a potential sacrifice to maintain stability among the major powers. The idea that a primitive species could resist Valkyrie conquest had never been seriously considered. "What do you want from us?" Kithara asked finally. Admiral Morrison leaned forward in his chair. "We want recognition. We want a seat at the table where decisions about galactic policy are made. And we want assurance that no other species will face the choice between surrender and extinction without someone speaking for them." "The Council will never agree to those terms," Kithara replied. "A balance of power that has maintained peace for 3 centuries depends on careful management of aggressive species, like the Valkyrie. Then the Council will need to find a new approach," Dr. Price said calmly, "because the old balance no longer exists. We have demonstrated that the Valkyrie can be defeated. Other species will draw their own conclusions from that fact." As if summoned by his words, the communication system activated with an urgent message from the Galactic Council. "Chambers." The voice of Chairman Volvic filled the room with barely controlled panic. "Elder Kithara, you must return to the Council immediately. We are receiving reports of uprisings across the Valkyrie Empire. Their subject worlds are declaring independence and requesting human protection. The hegemony is mobilizing their fleets in response to perceived human aggression. The entire galactic political structure is collapsing." Admiral Morrison stood and walked to the window overlooking Earth. His home world continued its peaceful rotation, seemingly unaware that it had just triggered the largest political crisis in galactic history. "Elder Kithara, you can return to the Council and tell them that humanity is willing to discuss terms for galactic membership. But we will not accept a subordinate role, and we will not abandon other species to the mercy of their conquerors." "And if the Council refuses?" she asked. "Then the Council will discover that humans are very good at making new friends," Lisa Morrison replied. "The species that the Valkyrie conquered are already sending us messages of gratitude. The worlds that the hegemony has enslaved are requesting our assistance. We could have a new galactic alliance operational within a standard year." Kithara realized that she was witnessing the end of an era. The careful balance that had maintained galactic peace through controlled aggression and managed conflict was crumbling. In its place, a new paradigm was emerging with humanity at its center. "You planned this," she accused. "The defensive preparations, the technological development, even your response to our policies. This was all calculated to force a galactic realignment." "We plan to survive," Admiral Morrison replied simply. "Everything else is just the consequence of that decision." Dr. Nathan Price deactivated the holographic display and faced the alien. "Elder directly. Elder Kithara, humanity does not want to be the galaxy's policeman. We do not want to build an empire or conquer other worlds. But we will not stand by and watch genocide happen when we have the power to prevent it. The Council believed that managed conflict was preferable to total war," Kithara explained. "By allowing aggressive species to expand in controlled ways, we prevented larger conflicts that could devastate entire sectors." "And how many worlds burned while you maintained that balance?" Lisa Morrison asked. "How many species went extinct while you calculated acceptable losses?" Kithara had no answer. The policy had seemed logical when applied to distant conflicts and unknown species. Faced with the reality of what it meant, she found herself questioning decisions that had seemed wise for centuries. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. Admiral Morrison turned from the window and smiled. It was not a cruel expression, but it carried the weight of absolute certainty. Now we change everything. The galaxy is about to learn what happens when humans decide to get involved.